Well, the first thing is dealing with a struggling revenue for our state. I got word today that the state of Minnesota is having trouble with their revenue. And I also learned that Wisconsin and Nebraska, along with Iowa, are also having trouble with revenues. It seems like the states here in the Midwest, because of our dependence upon agriculture as an engine for our economy, we're all struggling at the current time for adequate revenue. So I think that we need to address the issue of financing for our schools. We provided last year 80% of all of our available revenue, new revenue, toward K-12 schools. We did not adequately, I don't believe, fund our universities, and I think we fell short with our community colleges. So this issue's back before us this year. We still struggle, but we still are working with our adult mental health system. Our regionalization of that system seems to be working well. However, we are struggling to find ways of being able to have counties able to finance the non-Medicaid services that they're responsible for. Their levy has been the same amount of money is the same as it was in 1994. And we have many regions that are up against the wall. They cannot levy for any more money, and our services are starting to suffer. We have to find a way to get through that. I'm also on a task force working with children's mental health. Right now, parents, when a child is having an episode or having a crisis, are lost on where to go and find services for their child who's desperately in need of mental health services. And we are meeting this year and into next year to develop a system for children's mental health. I want to continue working with autism. It's a devastating condition affecting many of our children in this state. And we have the opportunity to provide a treatment for these difficult cases, and I'm working on that also. Well, I think that I will, in my budget, which is the second largest budget in the state, I will be going over every line item in my budget, trying to find what is necessary and what is not necessary. When I discover opportunity to create savings, I'll create it. And I think every appropriation chair should have that same responsibility. And then we'll come together toward the end of the session and deal with the amount of money that we have and spend no more money than the ongoing revenue. We will not spend any one-time money for ongoing expenditures. We learned that 4 years ago. I haven't really looked at other people's budgets. We pretty much rely on the members of that respective committee to make those decisions. I don't like to have people looking over my shoulder telling me what to do, and I don't think those chairs and those working committees and appropriations would appreciate me all of a sudden dictating to them what I think they ought to do. That's their business. But when they bring it before the appropriations committee, then we make those decisions. The biggest thing that two things that we have to decide what to do this year. First of all, we have to find the money to support our new reading program for kids. Right now, we have established that a child should have a certain reading level by the end of the 3rd grade. Children learn to read the first 3 years of their school. And from then on, you read to learn. If you don't have the ability to read, you will fall behind, and a great percentage of those children who do not reach adequate reading level will be dropping out of school by the time they hit their high school years. This is very important. It's going to cost us $9 million of new money. We put it off a year last year, and we can't afford to put it off this year. We're going to have to find that $9 million. The big question, I think, collectively, the whole legislature is going to have to decide is what are we going to do about water quality and how are we going to pay for it? We have two different plans. One is to raise the sales tax by 3/8% and provide those funds to deal with water quality and outdoor recreation. The other way is to take the existing state funds using infrastructure, general fund, and the sales tax on your water bill to work with water quality. I don't know how it's going to come out. I know that there's going to be a lot of discussion. I hope that we can come to an agreement and move forward on this issue. I really believe there has to be support from the people in my district to want or agree to a tax increase. I think that the last time when we raised taxes was the gas tax and 10 cents. And I had support in my community for that, and I voted that way. I know there was some, you don't satisfy everybody, and I know there were some that maybe didn't agree with me on that, but I think the vast majority agreed with that 10-cent increase and can see the results of it. Are the people in my district willing to raise the sales tax by 3/8%? I'll find out. Maybe not on whether or not I win or lose this election, but I know in the coming months before the session, I will definitely be consulting with the constituents in my district as to what their position is. Well, I tell you what, when you see these kids who are suffering from their illnesses, that the cannibal oil will work on their condition, your heart goes out to them. We came very close to passing last year a bill that would allow cannibal oil to be available inside the state of Iowa. Couldn't quite get there. Ended up with a compromise that said you could go to Minnesota and buy it in Minnesota and bring it back across the border. Well, that's against a federal law to go across the border with that substance. And so people really haven't exercised what we passed. It wasn't a good law. I think I've heard the governor this week say that when it came to the issue of the cannibal oil law, that I think that he would support a law that would allow cannibal oil to be available inside the state. We wouldn't have to go across state lines to get it. Now, when it comes time to the weed, the smoking of marijuana, I'm hesitant because I feel sometimes it's a gateway toward recreational marijuana, of which I don't support. So I have not made up my mind as to whether I would support the smoking of the substance for medical purposes. That's still up in the air with me. Well, I think this is going to be not an easy session. I think that because our revenues are falling short of what we really need to really move the state forward, we will struggle at finding consensus and coming to agreement. However, in the years in the past that I've been the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, I've worked with a Senate that has been across the aisle from me. In other words, they're Democrats. I have continued every year to work in a bipartisan fashion, and I continue to take pride in the work that we do at our legislature and how different it is from the morass that we have in Washington, D.C. We're doing it right here in the state, and I look forward to the opportunity to do it once again.